joint meeting of the City Council, successor agency to the redevelopment agency, and all the other entities that are listed on our agenda this Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. The call time is 6:45 PM. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Nava,
Present.
Councilmember Corona,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
Here.
Councilmember Vallejo,
Here.
Mayor Vargas.
Present as well, thank you. Item 3 is our invocation, which will be led by Chaplain Doug Brockmere from the Calvary Chapel, Paris Valley. Please come on up to the podium, sir. If you'd all please stand and join us and remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, which item number 4, which will be led by Councilwoman Nava.
I'd like to say good evening to all of you, all the members of the City Council and the Mayor. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and present the invocation for this month's City Council meeting. Let's pray. Dear Father in heaven, as we gather here this evening on behalf of the citizens of the wonderful city of Paris, we invite you to be here with us tonight. Lord, may we not only feel your presence and know that you are here, but we ask that you would provide us all with the love and the compassion needed to make good decisions for the benefit of this great city. And Lord, we would also ask for your godly wisdom to be granted to each one here as we contemplate the complexities of guiding this city in the direction that you want it to go, to be a light on a hill to the surrounding communities. We also pray that you would keep us near you and keep us safe as we serve you and your people. And we lift a special prayer up this evening to all of those that are affected by the firestorms in Southern California. Lord, we pray for those who have lost much or all of everything they've ever known. Father, we pray that you would be Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides, and that you would meet each person right where they're at for whatever their needs are. And that you would also be Jehovah Rapha, the Lord God who heals to those who are coming home and looking at their possessions and seeing all the destruction and the damage that has happened there. God, may that you heal their hearts, their minds, and their spirits. And I pray, Lord, that all of us, Lord, would just find ways to be able to come alongside them and show them the love that you've shown to us, Father. And these things we pray. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. Now please join me in saluting our nation's flag. Ready, begin. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chaplain. Item 5 is report on closed session items. Madam Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council met in closed session. On item A, there were 4 cases. No reportable action was taken on any of the cases. The council met in closed session for real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 also, and no reportable action was taken. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Item 6 is our presentation and announcements. We have none this evening. Item 7 is our Youth Advisory Committee communications. This report will be given by Kimberly Tai, the president of our Youth Advisory Committee.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and city staff. My name is Kimberly Tai, and I am honored to serve as the president of the Youth Advisory Committee, YAC. To start, YAC is excited to host our ninth annual Job Shadow Day next Thursday, February 6th. In addition, our open mic night is Friday, February 7th at the Statler Youth Center from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Also, YAC's first parks cleanups of the year is scheduled for Saturday, February 8th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Enchanted Hills Park. Our next YAC meeting is on Tuesday, February 4th from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at Council Chambers. Community services are available to students who participate in our events. Lastly, YAC wants to announce its 2025-2026 recruitment. It will be available starting Monday, February 3rd, 2025. As always, YAC reminds everyone to stay safe and connected. Follow us on social media at Paris YAC for updates and information about upcoming events. Thank you for your time and continued support.
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, item 8 is public comment. This is the time when any member of the public may bring a matter to the attention of the mayor or the city council that is within our jurisdiction, but is not as part of our agenda. We'll allow for 3 minutes. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir. Robert Ramos.
Wow, I'm the lucky one that gets to go first, right? Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Robert Ramos, and I'm here on behalf of the Ironworkers of Local 416. I'm just going to be brief. I'm here in support of a community workforce agreement. I'm just going to touch on two
Okay, Robert,
subjects.
that's an agendized item. This is,
Oh, is it?
yeah.
Okay.
This is on our consent calendar.
Okay, I'm sorry
For
about
the
that.
CWA?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
10M. So you want to come back here for the consent calendar and
Yes, sir.
pull it. 10M.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Julia Birch.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I'm representing two organizations tonight. I'm with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm our secretary, and then I'm also representing the Paris Boys and Girls Club. First, for the Chamber, we continue to develop a full schedule of programming, events, and educational workshops for the members and local business community. This Thursday, we will be at the All Chamber Mega Mixer, a biannual event powered by chambers of commerce all across Southern California. There will be dozens of chambers, hundreds of exhibitor tables, and thousands of attendees. Admission is only $1 or one business card. So we ask that you stop by our table, the PVCC table if you're there, and learn more about us and the powerful resources available. We also have a complete lineup of financial workshops scheduled to make our businesses have the tools and resources needed for success. The first workshop will be on Wednesday, February 19th at 9:30 a.m., and we will alternate Wednesdays and Fridays. And then today, our ambassadors finalize the dates for the 2025 business walks. I know we always love to have the mayor join us. We're going to visit every business in town to learn how their businesses are going, what they love about doing business in Paris, and the areas they are struggling. And this helps us to create targeted programs to serve the business community in a relevant way. And then lastly, we invite everyone here to join us on Wednesday, February 5th for our monthly Good Morning Paris. This month's speaker is Riverside County Supervisor District 1, Jose Medina, and he will be discussing his goals and vision for his new role as a county supervisor. And we do ask that you check our calendar, chamber calendar for all the details of all these events. It is parischamber.net/events. And we are always adding new mixers, ribbon cutting ceremonies, programs to the calendar. So we ask that everyone check that out. And as always, follow us on our socials. Facebook is Paris Chamber and Instagram is paris.chamber for the most up-to-date information. And then switching over to Boys and Girls Club, we are partnered with Ross in Paris from February 8th through March 2nd. If you visit Ross and make a purchase, they'll ask at the register for you to make a donation. Any donations that are made 80% goes directly to the Paris Boys and Girls Club, and 20% goes to our national office to support the project. And this goes towards our Power Hour program, which is an hour for our kids to participate in homework assistance programs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ashley Barton.
Hello, I am Ashley Barton. I'm the lead facilitator for Paris Pride Alliance. I'm not here for that today, but I did want to thank all of the city staff that has been helping me in finding a permanent home for Paris Pride Alliance to meet. I do have a very strong lead, and hopefully I will be announcing at the next city council meeting our first indoor meeting from towards the ends of February. I did want to come up here because I have been seeing a lot in the news, in the local news, about ICE raids, and they are incredibly concerning. I see that I'm scared for our local members in the way that I don't see that things are going legally, at least in the way that we understood them to be. I have personal friends who have gone to regular visa renewal appointments, and having found out after arriving there that their visa was canceled, and they were immediately arrested, and they are now on their way to deportation. They didn't even get to say goodbye to their kids. So I know that's happening. That wasn't in our community, but I have heard that there are things that have happened in our community, things that have been posted and verified by local News Watch. So I just wanted to urge and remind us to be vigilant, to report ICE, to let people know when they're happening, when they're coming, and to rely on and help with TODEC and the Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice. They're doing really good work right now, and they're helping our immigrant community members, which we have a good amount of. Lastly, I just wanted to remind everyone here that the difference between a documented citizen and an undocumented citizen is only paperwork. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Alexandro Mesa.
Good evening, members of the council, people of Paris, concerned and decent people everywhere. Some of you have to be caught up on this, but regardless of what you have known or thought before, I am counting on everyone tonight to make sense of what I'm saying and to act. It does affect you and your constituents, and there are things within your power here. The Paris Valley Historical Society, officially Paris Valley Historical Museum and Association, has been the recipient of over $28,000 in grants from the city of Paris, all of which should have come with basic stipulations about following all applicable laws. Many of those discretionary funds have gone into the regular art shows, which are canceled indefinitely due to their event coordinator's departure. None of us feel the absence of those shows more than the artists, vendors, customers, and volunteers, some of which are here today, who frankly put up with a lot while getting a lot out of that. But those shows had to end for now because, as good as they are for the community, the Historical Society Board allowed these events to be run by someone whose negative behavior was more than matched by criminal history. A felony count of PC 261.5 is statutory rape of a young teen. It is grooming and it is violation. That is not something which should ever be forgotten within the context of someone who wants to organize and supervise events attended by minors who may be unsupervised. That is what PC section 11105.3 accounts for, under which this simply isn't allowed without notice given to families of kids who go to these events. So this person naturally shouldn't be brought back to run the Paris Fandom Con, which they try to openly tout like a done deal. On a Paris city lease, that would look especially bad for the city. Before he resigned, he had started offering free spaces to set up for anyone who had a local high school ID. That means minors, okay? I don't want to see that. Families don't, unless we have a guarantee that the position's not abused. Now, when these issues are revealed, the board of the Historical Society seemed to double down by trying to shake off the whistleblowings with canceled and shifted meetings. Now they're surprised by public outcry, but they must learn to move past these decisions and bring back art shows under new leadership, allow return of volunteers, and until then, the city of Paris should not consider any new funds for this nonprofit except to repair that archive, which is a city building anyway. That is likely to follow any financial agreement that was made, and we are requesting that the city review the terms of its financial agreements with the Historical Society, that any agreements attached to those grants also be made available for viewing to determine what standards the city should be holding the organization to right now. This is not the thing to have a blind spot for, especially when it has a paralyzing effect on the proper function of the Historical Society. We may talk about commercial development, but what of our cultural integrity? Between art shows and staffing the city's archive building, the essence of the Historical Society's work was cultural integrity, but you see where that has gotten to be. Mayor Vargas, you've been able to arrange meetings with the leadership of the Historical Society in the past to discuss decay of the archive, which by all means you should focus on. Now, perhaps your office could similarly arrange something to demonstrate how deeply concerned we are by the legal and ethical dilemmas invited by that board. while rejecting the labor of those with honest concerns, doubling down on a PC violation with a likely labor code violation. Unacceptable. So please do reach back out to us all and discuss amongst yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julia Stoddard. Julia Stoddard.
Hello, I'm Julia Stouter. Believe it or not, I'm a business owner in Rancho Cucamonga, California, and we're Dreamland Arts and Community. We focus on uplifting arts and community in the Inland Empire. And what Alex just spoke on is something that personally affected me over there in Rancho Cucamonga. And I don't know how many of you know the person in question, this coordinator. I don't know who allowed him to work in tandem with you. He touted himself as the boy of Paris. He is the savior. He is working with the city of Paris. He's hosting events at Paris High School with the conviction of lewd and lascivious acts with a 14 to 15-year-old when he was a grown adult man. That's inexcusable that he was working with children, young artisans, and women, because guess what? He also has plenty of files against him for restraining orders. His own mother filed one against him at one point. If you look him up, just public record, San Bernardino County, if you look up that man's name, there's 18 files. 18 times where that man was a defendant in a case of a violent crime. Why was he working for the city of Paris? How was he cleared to hold events at a high school 3 times? He's supposed to be holding another one this summer, which he wrote me into 2 years ago, promising it was going to be the best thing. Nothing came of it. He is embarrassing to the city. And it's affected us, the arts community, which is a big up-and-coming economic thing that's happening in the Inland Empire. I don't know if anybody's in on the economic development of the entire Inland Empire, but we're moving toward a lot more of art and community focused businesses because we need that here. So this is our business all around the Inland Empire. And if you guys are doing this, if you're allowing this, imagine everybody else who's allowing this. Again, I've never met any of you. I don't know who you are, your affiliation with the coordinator, or I don't know who approved it, but all I know is that a convicted grown adult who touched a child gets to hold events at Paris High School. How did that happen?
Thank you.
That is all.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move up. Item 12A, councils. This is the presentation from our federal lobbyist. He's got a plane to catch, so there's no objections. I'm going to move him on up. This item is going to be introduced by Assistant City Manager Wendell Bugtie.
Thank you, Mayor. We have Jason Browdy with Cali and Associates to provide us a federal update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. It's a pleasure to be here. We've had a busy few days in Washington since the incoming Trump administration has taken office, but I did want to kind of present some things that we've been working on with the city staff and the council on various items, and I do want to just go over that. Some things that's happened over the last year and a half or so, some big funding opportunities and some other work that we've been doing, and then just give you a quick update on a couple things going on in DC under the new Trump administration. So again, my name is Jason Browdy with the firm Kiley and Associates. I know I've met a lot of you before. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure, honestly, to work on behalf of such a great city in Washington. My background is I grew up here in Southern California, so I have a unique background of knowing a lot of your issues and a lot of the things impacting us here. In addition to myself, my two colleagues, Greg Kiley and Kim Van Wy, who I know the council and staff know as well, we're always here for you and for the entire city of residents. So just please let us know however we can help. Going back to some big funding opportunities that we've been working on with the city, Congressman Takano in something called Community Project, or otherwise known as earmarks, has been one of the biggest things that we work on with the city. Every year, the congressman and the 2 U.S. senators get projects that they can support on behalf of the city. We submit those at the direction of your help along with staff. In 2023, the grant opportunity, earmark/grant opportunity for the Bob Glass Gymnasium was put forward, and Congressman Takano was able to bring home $3 million for that. Again, this was the leadership of the mayor and the council to get this across the finish line, of course, with the generosity of the congressman. Right now, we're working on completing this project. The early childhood classroom grand opening is actually scheduled just here in a few days for January 30th, and that's directly related to that $3 billion that we were able to work on with Congressman Takano. In 2024, we worked with both Congressman Takano and Senator Alex Padilla and late Senator Dianne Feinstein for funding that went towards the Paris Senior Center. Mayor, you may remember meeting with both the staff of the U.S. senators and Congressman Takano to get that funding across the finish line, and it did get across the finish line, $1.6 million. It was signed into law by President Biden and is currently law. And right now, we are working with federal agencies to get that money actually in the city's accounts and make sure that we can start that construction of that expansion program. And we'll keep you posted as funds do move forward. Obviously, today there was some news of potentially putting hold on some of this funding, but from what we've been told so far, this actual earmark funding will not be impacted by that directive by the Trump administration today. But obviously, stay tuned, and of course, if we do hear otherwise, we'll let you know. Also, the same year, Congressman Takano and Senator Feinstein and Senator Padilla put forward $200,000 for the purchase of body-worn cameras for the code enforcement team, and this project was also signed into law by President Biden. This program obviously makes sure that there's transparency between your code enforcement officers and your residents, along making sure that the city is more safe and both your residents and your staff have the tools and equipment to make sure that there's no confrontations, things along those lines. And it's a great program that the mayor really and Councilmember Rabb, you were there as well to really help bring home that funding from the senators and the Congress members. So that was another $200,000. This past year, Congressman Takano put forward $250,000 for a new fire truck for the city. Obviously, with fires, and this was happened well before all these recent fires that we've been dealing with. But $250,000 for a purchase of a new fire truck is pending right now. It was passed by the House Appropriations Committee, and it did include the city's $250,000 in that bill. Right now, we're just waiting for Congress and the Senate to come upon an agreement to move that funding forward. And then once that happens, we hope it will be signed into law by President Trump sometime this spring. And again, that'll be $250,000 towards a new fire truck. And then in this upcoming year, we're going to be applying for funding once again. Senator Alex Padilla and now Senator Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff took over for Senator Butler, who was there just a short time after Senator Feinstein passed away. So Senator Schiff and Senator Padilla are going to be taking member requests for projects along with Congressman Takano. Just last week, the mayor met with both Alex Padilla and Senator Schiff in Washington, D.C. We're going to start engaging with their staffs on some funding opportunities that we see fit for the city. And finally, we'll also apply for this same funding to Congressman Takano as well. With the mayor's direction, along with staff so far, what we're looking at, and again, we're going to talk to staff in Washington, D.C. and in the congressional offices to make sure all these will still be a possibility. But as of now, the funding projects that we are thinking about submitting are gunshot detection technology that we already have for the city. It's expanding that. That's with our shot spotter system that we use. And by the way, Mayor, as you remember, the Congress member came out and toured the shot spotter and learned more about it, something that he's really, really interested in. And then a new fire station actually in the southern part of the city is also something that I really think would be good for the city to focus on with the fires that happened in LA County, both the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire. Fire funding is going to be something that I think all U.S. senators and all Congress members are going to want to support. So a new fire station down in the southern part of the city is something that we really think would be a good opportunity for the city, especially in light of what happened earlier this year, for the city to think about applying for. And there's also some other federal grant opportunities that the city is considering. Earlier this month, Mayor Vargas met with senior officials from the Department of Transportation in Washington, D.C. There's a grant program called the Safe Streets and Roads for All program that we hope will be released later this spring. That will be funding that could go towards mitigating traffic accidents by the way of putting in guardrails, repaving, potential crosswalks, funding along those lines. And this is a grant program that I know the mayor wants to make a priority, and we'll keep you guys in the loop on that as we move forward. And as I mentioned earlier this year, or last year, I should say, Congressman Takano visited the city to talk about that shot spotter technology. With that funding in mind, we're also going to think about other funding that could go towards the shot spotter technology that the Department of Justice and other federal agencies may have. Back in 2023, I did also want to just bring up one of the biggest things that we help organize are the council and the mayor's trips to Washington. Both the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the National League of Cities are really, really important conferences to attend. You can see here on the PowerPoint the Congress member with the mayor and the mayor pro tem. This, and then the photo on the right is actually meetings with senior officials from the Department of Transportation talking about the transportation needs of the city. And then last year in 2024, the mayor returned to Washington with the assistant city manager, and we had high-level meetings again with Congressman Takano at the National League of Cities and at the U.S. Conference of Mayors last year in early January. And then also the mayor met with then Senator LaFonza Butler, who I mentioned has just been taken over by Adam Schiff, and then Senator Alex Padilla as well, who's still in office. So we're going to continue our advocacy for the city. Obviously, we work well with Senator Schiff. You can see the mayor there with Senator Schiff, and on the left there, the congressman being presented the Paris Theater portrait painting, I should say, by the mayor. So obviously, just making sure that the city is at the forefront of all things federal is our job, and we'll continue those efforts with the Trump administration. Obviously, things are going to change a little bit from the Biden administration, but that's what we're here for, to help and navigate somewhat uncharted waters, to be completely honest with you. But you know, that's what we're here for, and we will do the best that we can. I think now more than ever is time to make sure that the city of Paris knows that your elected officials are being proactive to go to Washington and fight for the needs of your residents. And I see that every day from both staff and the mayor and council. So thank you all for your help and leadership. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jason. Councilman, do you have any questions? Very good. You're awesome.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members.
Thank
Take
you.
care, and
Appreciate
I'm
your
always
help.
around whenever you need anything.
All right, moving on, 9A is our approval of minutes. 9A is consideration to approve the minutes of the regular joint meeting held on January 14th, 2025 of the City Council, successor agency redevelopment agencies, and all the other entities as listed on our agenda. There are no questions or comments, Council. I entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion by Councilman Corona, second by Mayor Pro Tem Rad. Please call the vote.
Five oh, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 10 is our consent calendar. Consent calendar items are normally enacted in one motion. The mayor or city council may remove a consent calendar item for a separate action. We will have public comment limited to 3 minutes. Council, anybody have anything they want to pull for separate vote or discussion? All right, so we're not going to be pulling anything from the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir, for item 10M. Brian Faulkner.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Brian Faulkner. I represent the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 12. I'm here tonight to support the Community Workforce Agreement. This agreement represents an investment into your community, and we have the opportunity to maximize its benefits for its local residents. Nothing is more important than working locally, staying off the freeway because your work is in LA 3 to 4 hours a daily commute, up to 5 hours daily. Nothing keeps a family together than working locally and getting home quicker. A community workforce agreement can offer a range of benefits for both the community and the workforce involved in a project. Some of the key advantages include job creation and economic benefits. CWAs often focus on creating local job opportunities, particularly for the underrepresented communities like our local veterans. This can lead to improved local economic conditions and more skilled workforce. Workforce development. CWAs typically include provisions for training and apprenticeship programs which help workers gain valuable skills, certifications, and experience leading to a long-term career growth and mobility. Diversity and inclusion. By requiring contractors to hire from certain local and historically underrepresented groups, CWAs promote greater diversity in the workforce, helping to address disparities and create more inclusive working environments. Improve project outcomes. Because CWAs often involve collaboration between stakeholders such as contractors, unions, and community organizations, they can result in a more efficient project execution, better quality, and fewer labor disputes. Support for local business. The CWA prioritize local hiring local workers and using local subcontractors, which can help stimulate the local economy and keep the money circulating within the community. Stable employment. CWAs can lead to a more stable employment condition through negotiated benefits, fair wages, and job security, which can improve worker morale and retention. Better labor management relations. CWAs often establish clear guidelines for labor relations, reducing the potential for strikes and other conflicts and fostering a more cooperative working environment. Long-term community impact. By fostering a skilled diverse workforce and supporting local businesses, CWAs can create lasting positive effects on the social and economic fabric of a community, contributing to its overall development. I thank you for your time and listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, how many speakers do we have? Six more. Okay, I'm gonna limit to 2 minutes, guys. This is on a consent calendar item. No one has pulled it from the council, so if you can make your comments brief, it'd be great. Or you can skip them. It's your call. Who's next?
Jose Saldaya.
Good afternoon. My name is Jose Salanya. I represent the Semin Masons, Local 500. Council members, I urge you guys to go forward with the renewal of the CWA for approval. I'm here to tell you guys we have much to work, we have much work to do in partnership and growth together. I urge you to approve the CWA. This agreement will benefit the community and have work done by actual craftsmen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
William Shaver. The second.
Evening, Mayor and Council. My name is William Sheriff II. I am a union trustee for Smart 105. I'm here for the approval of the CWA, and I'll forgo with that. Save time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Shaver.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'll try to keep this brief, but I wanted to let you know that this is something that comes from the heart. That was my son that just got up here. He's working on a CWA in Riverside that was approved by the Riverside Unified School District. He's actually working close to home right now. And as a parent, one of the most important things that we can do is be with our children when we have dinner time, to have dinner every night with your children. And a lot of these brothers and sisters from the construction industry have spent hours and hours on the road working in LA, San Diego, in points 2 to 3 hours away from our home. And we do that as a daily commute. And I've been in this industry for 40 years, and I've done this for many, many years. And that was one of the most important things that I could do, was try to work close to home so that I could raise a good son and to raise a good family. He's working on that next generation. And what's great about the Community Workforce Agreement, it gives us the opportunity to be able to work close to home. I've been an Inland Empire resident for 60 years, 40 years in the construction industry, and it does me proud when our leaders look at these community workforce agreements and give us, the workers, an opportunity to not just work in the area, but also to have a chance to get a viable career in the construction industry and be able to work close to home. So I thank you for your consideration on this matter at this time, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jose Herrera.
You're going to have to repeat that. They were clapping.
Jose Herrera.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I am here today in support of renewing the CWA. I'm here representing the Cement Masons and Operator Plasters. We have had great success with the CWA in place, delivering projects under budget and in a timely manner. We've also had a great success keeping people working where they live and having them being able to obtain more time with their families. We also have had several success, putting local apprentices and giving local residents the opportunity in the construction trades, being able to make a decent living and having great benefits for their families and themselves. Keeping local people working close to their own homes also keeps boosting the local economy. So I strongly urge that you keep this community workforce agreement in place, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Albert Duarte.
Good evening, Mayor Vargas, council members and staff. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm the business manager for the building trades. Just started in December. And part of, I'm proud to represent these guys, right? They're skilled and trained workers, right? And that's a loud statement. What my commitment is to outreach to the high schools, to the community, to the people that don't have a good trade right now or a skill, right? There's a lot of opportunity that we have to offer, but it can only be done by community workforce agreements. And fortunately, we have support from around the Inland Empire. So the people that are going to work and that we're going to hire are going to be able to work close to home. What Bill said, we all work in LA because they're predominantly project labor agreements, right? So that's where we travel. But now it's time for us to work here. So I just thank you for the support that you guys have given us and all that you've done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Ramos.
I'm back for the right consent item. Anyways, I'm gonna keep it real brief. My union partners over there pretty much summed it up. I'm just gonna want you to paint this picture. In over 30 years' time, I traveled on the highways 29,750 hours. That's a lot of time away from my family. With this community workforce agreement, will keep future tradesmen closer to home, stimulate the local economy. So with that, I'll end it and hope your consideration tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all.
All right, Council, there's no more discussion. Councilman Rab, Mayor Pro Tem Rab.
I'd just like to thank all the speakers for coming out today to speak in support of item M. I will fully support item M. Item M has been supported in the past. Just for the record, when something's on consent calendar, if the council is not pulling it, it's most likely going to get passed in total. But we appreciate your comments and thank you for coming out tonight.
Councilman Corona.
Yeah, just want to briefly kind of give everyone a quick history. City of Paris was one of the first cities in the whole area to do a project labor agreement. We did that in 2017, and then about a year and a half later, then we did a CWA. With the reason why we're here, it just expired. I think the City of Paris has always been a pro labor. We definitely support quality work and quality workers, so I'm in full support of this. Thank you.
This whole council's been like that for over 8 years, so there's nothing more to say. All right, so I'm looking, this time, if there's no more discussion, council, I need a motion and a second. And this is for item 10A all the way through 10O. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Rab, second by Councilwoman Vallejo. Please call the vote.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. All right, item 11 is our public hearings. 10A is consideration to introduce the first reading of proposed ordinance number next in order, amending municipal code section 2.37.040 regarding compensation of planning commissioners. This will be presented or introduced by our Director of Administrative Services, Aida Amorscar.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. This item here before you is to consider the first reading of ordinance number next in order, amending Code Section 2.37.040 regarding compensation of planning commissioners. At the September 24, 2024 City Council meeting, Councilman Corona requested that staff bring back an item to discuss an adjustment to the Planning Commission compensation pursuant to Government Code. Staff conducted a survey of Planning Commission compensation of surrounding cities with the results appearing on the screen. The Planning Commission requires commissioners to commit personal time to the review and planning process of the Planning Commission meeting agendas 2 times every month. As such, the compensation may be adjusted to make it easier for the average city resident to serve on the Planning Commission due to inflation and increased costs of living. In consideration of this and the survey results, staff recommends the proposed ordinance to the Planning Commissioner's compensation from $100 per meeting to $150 per regular meeting, with a corresponding increase in the monthly compensation limit from $200 to $300 per commissioner per month as the Planning Commission holds 2 regular meetings each month. If the City Council wishes to change this compensation limit, staff will update the proposed ordinance accordingly. This concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Saida. Councilman, do you have any questions before I open up the public hearing?
In your research, I don't know if you came across it. Was there ever a situation, I know some school boards do this, where if you don't attend a meeting, you don't get compensated, you get compensated for halfway, or is there anything like that?
Not in my research, no, we didn't inquire about that.
Do you have any information on that, Mr.
Yes,
Fong?
if they don't attend the meeting, they're not compensated for that attendance.
Ours are not compensated, yeah.
It's
They have to
attendance.
show to get paid.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
It's paid per meeting.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Anybody else? All right, I'm gonna open up the public hearing. 7:31. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
Anybody wishing to speak on this item? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:31. If there's no more discussion, I'm going to entertain a motion, but I would like to entertain a suggestion to incorporate, I mean, when's the last time they got a raise that they ever been adjusted? I mean, I've been here for 20 years and they've never been adjusted.
I was going to say, I don't have
Yeah.
that information. It's been a long time.
So, I mean, obviously, they're not here to make money, but it compensates them for gasoline, and gas has gone up very high. Some of our commissioners are coming from work from out of the city, you know, so forth, but, so like us, we have to bring it up for our city attorney, for our raises, we have to bring it up for a CPI adjustment, and it has to be done before an election and blah, blah, blah. Does that apply to appointed commissioners?
I don't believe it does. Your
Okay.
code doesn't
Is there,
include
is
that.
there, can we do a stipulation that besides increasing this to 150, that we look at it with the CPI increase every
Yes,
2 years, I would think,
absolutely.
maybe? Everybody's good with that? CPI increase every 2 years? So whoever makes the motion, if you can include that, I'd appreciate it. You have a comment, Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem?
I think it sounds good, but we could be in a situation where there maybe is hyperinflation and we're kind of tying the hands of future councils. I think the ordinance said anywhere between, was it like 150 to 200? So the council can just re-examine it every 2 years, much like we do with our salary.
Well, we
I'm
can,
just
I mean, you can
concerned.
put the word, I mean, no one's saying it has to be done. I'm just saying, I don't want to see this go on like the council did for over 10 years and never got an increase. I want to protect the budget and the rights to our appointed persons. So I don't mind however the wording is. I just don't want to see this go on again for another 20 years and they never get an increase, and gasoline in 20 years is now $30 a gallon. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Just one clarifying question for the city attorney or Madam City Manager is, if we establish this with ordinance and the ordinance sets out the parameters, if we want to raise it, it would just be a resolution in the future, as long as it stays in those parameters, correct? Or is that?
Yes, that's correct. And you can put that in the ordinance. And to address the CPI concern, you could just say, for every 2 years, staff shall bring back
Right.
recommendations of an increase. And that way, there's flexibility as to, and then the increase can be set via resolution. That's how we can draft the ordinance.
I would agree with that. That sounds
Perfect.
great.
That's exactly what my intentions were.
So for a quick question, I mean, they're not meeting twice a month, right? I mean, normally they do, but they go so they have 24 meetings a year.
Not 24.
Not 24. We might, they've historically missed maybe a couple of meetings per year. So, but historically, they've had 2 meetings per month.
Okay, because I'm trying to match it up, and I was actually under the impression that they were getting compensated $100 per month, but it's actually $100 per meeting. Kind of aligned with other cities. I don't know.
Sorry, I have another clarifying question. For all the other cities, do they also meet 2 times a month, or does it vary city per city?
It depends. I know that we, just because we communicate with Menifee, don't meet as often as we do. It just depends on the volume of work that's in the city.
All right, if no one else has any more questions, I have a motion. Looking for a second.
Can you clarify the motion again one more time? It was, yes, if you can.
Yes.
The motion is to adopt the ordinance, giving the increase recommended by staff, but add a provision that says every 2 years, staff is to analyze and bring back to council a recommendation for potential adjustment, stipend adjustment, that can be adopted via resolution.
All right, looking for a motion. I have a motion by Councilwoman Nava, second by Mayor Pro Tem Rab. Please call the vote.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. 11B is consideration to adopt proposed resolution numbers next in order and introduce a first reading of proposed ordinance numbers next in order regarding General Plan Amendment GPA 24-05206, Specific Plan Amendments SPA 24-05207, Zoning and Subdivision Amendments 24-05184. This is a proposal to amend the General Plan, Green Valley Specific Plan, Downtown Specific Plan, Zoning and Subdivision Codes to establish a Housing Opportunity Areas Overlay, HOAO, zone, subject to affordability requirements, and to amend existing land use regulations to remove unduly constraints to streamline housing development projects in accordance with the applicable state housing laws. And this is going to be presented by our Director of Development Services, Mr. Kenneth Fung.
Good evening, Mayor. This item will be presented by our Planning Manager, Patricia Brenes.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, city staff. As you mentioned, Mayor, the project comes to you with a 4-0 vote from the Planning Commission recommending that the City Council approve the housing implementation project, which is a follow-through obligation of the city's housing element approved on January 25, 2022, aimed at streamlining the process for housing and identified housing opportunity areas to accommodate 7,800 units required by the state. This project will fulfill the city's obligation for approval of the housing element by implementing an overlay zone for the housing opportunity areas and amending the land use regulations to streamline the process for residential development and for compliance with the state law. The housing opportunity areas were selected and approved by this City Council when the housing element was adopted in 2022. With the implementation of the overlay zone, property owners would have the opportunity to develop at the density that's allowed by the underlying zone and also activate the overlay zone without having to process a zone change. Amendments are proposed with this project to remove barriers and facilitate affordable housing in the city. A mitigated negative declaration was prepared for this project in compliance with CEQA and received 5 letters and a phone call regarding this project. None of the letters or comments received raised additional issues that haven't already been addressed in the mitigated negative declaration or the environmental documents. So with that, staff recommends that the City Council adopt resolution for adoption of the mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, adopt resolution for adoption of the general plan amendment amending the land use element, introduce ordinances approving amendments to the Green Valley specific plan, downtown specific plan, zoning code and map, and the subdivision code to provide opportunities for affordable housing and remove constraints on housing development. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Patricia. Council, any quick questions or comments before open up public hearing? All right, seeing nobody in the queue, we're going to open up the public hearing at 7:39. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
Anybody wishing to speak on this item in the audience? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:39. And I'll come back to the council for any comments, questions. If none, I'm going to call for a motion on the two resolutions and the first reading of the four ordinances. I have a motion by Councilwoman Nava and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Rab. Please call the vote.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. 12A, we took care of already. 12B is consideration to adopt proposed resolution next in number, reverting to the state mandate default campaign contribution limits and other campaign regulations set by Assembly Bill number 571, AB 571, and repealing resolution number 6027. This will be introduced by our city attorney, Sunny Sultani.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just realized the staff reports don't come on my screen. Clara? Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, yeah. Can you cover it? Yeah, sorry.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This item 12B is consideration to adopt campaign contribution limits. It does include a repeal resolution. In 2022, the city council did adopt new campaign limits, which increased what's above the AB 571. And at the request of Councilman Corona, staff is bringing this item back to reconsider the contribution limits. There's also an alternate resolution that does allow you to approve a contribution limit even below the AB 571 thresholds if that's what the council desires to do. So with that, this is a discussion item. And we would ask for direction, and we will bring, tonight you can actually adopt the ordinance with the new contribution limits as a public hearing item. That's it.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, or Council, anybody have any quick questions or comments before I open up the public hearing?
Yes, I have a question.
Or call for public comment, I should say. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, in drafting the resolution to repeal ordinance, resolution 6027, was there any discussion on simply keeping 6027 but amending section 5, subsection A? I believe it says, "No person shall make a candidate for city elected office or to a controlled committee of that candidate a campaign contribution totaling more than $20,000 per election." Was there any discussion maybe bringing that down to be analogous to the state level that's set by AB 571?
Do you want me to respond?
Sure.
So we're leaving that in your discretion. So essentially, you have two resolutions before you tonight. One of them allows you to just keep it at the state level, pursuant to that. One of them allows you to set a different limit. It could be lower, higher. We've left it blank for the council to deliberate and decide.
Okay. And another question, if we were to adopt the state regulation, I didn't see any language about candidates being able to transfer funds for different positions within the state. Say, for instance, a Paris City Council candidate raises money for the Paris City Council, does not extend all that money, and say, for instance, they want to run for state assembly or state supervisor or judge or any other position that they are allowed to transfer the funds in. Would adopting AB 571 instead of amending Resolution 6027, would that hamstring a candidate from transferring over funds to a future campaign?
No, because in the resolution, we clarify that all other applicable state laws remain and it would be pursuant to other state laws.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, you know, when we were presented this in 2022, there was a very robust presentation. We were comparing other cities and anything like that. Is there a presentation? Or is this just a staff report? I mean, I'm talking about for the residents.
We have actually checked and nothing in the other cities has changed. We had that, where is the chart? I thought it was it wasn't we didn't make an attachment to the staff report. I shared the updated chart. No. We don't, I did not put together a presentation, sorry, Councilman Corona, but we did verify that no surrounding city has changed from that time. And I can pull it up on my email. I have it somewhere if you're interested in having a discussion about that.
No, I think I remember from that time. I'm just thinking like for the public, for transparency reasons. But no, I'm okay. That's the only question I had.
Actually, Sunny, can you pull it? Because I wasn't aware, and that would be great for me to understand more from.
Or if I may add, is there a staffer who could kind of revisit what the discussion was back then and just provide a refresher for our newest council member and for the public?
Would you like me to explain what the law was back then? And so prior to AB 571, cities would set their own campaign. There was no limits. There was no campaign contribution limits, and anybody could donate however much they wanted to. Then in 2019, the California legislature passed the law, AB 571, which essentially said the state of California is setting a limit of $5,900 for campaign contributions. However, we can allow a public agency to set its own limits, lower or higher than that. If the public agencies don't adopt a resolution by, back then I forgot the date, what it was October of 2019, setting their own limit, then state law would apply, which would limit it at $5,900. A lot of cities wanted higher campaign donation limits, so they adopted resolutions that set their limits at higher limits. And at that time, when the item was brought to the city of Paris, I wasn't the city attorney, but my understanding is the council decided we're going to set a $20,000 limit. So Councilman Corona then wanted to bring this item back to consider it, and staff, since we didn't know which way the council would want to go, we've provided you with two resolutions. One resolution would repeal your resolution that sets it at $20,000, and if you do that, simply state law applies, which means the limit will be $5,900. But the second resolution allows you to set a different limit than the $20,000 you had, but it can be lower or higher than the state limit. That's $5,900. The AB 571 does several other things, and I've listed all 8 of them in the staff report. For example, candidate cannot make a campaign contribution to another candidate subject to AB 571 in excess of the state contribution limit. A candidate that has qualified as a committee must establish a separate controlled committee and campaign bank account for each specific office. Candidates may transfer campaign funds from one controlled committee to another controlled committee. Candidates cannot personally loan money to their own campaign in an amount which exceeds $100,000. An elected city official may establish a committee to oppose a recall measure and election as soon as the official receives a notice of intent against them and can accept contributions without regard to the state limitations. Candidates can accept contributions after the date of the election only to the extent that contribution does not exceed net debts outstanding from the election and the contribution do not otherwise exceed the state's limitations. Candidate may carry over contributions raised with one election to pay campaign expenditures incurred with another subsequent election. And finally, a candidate for elective city office may raise contributions for a general election before the primary election and for a special general election before a special primary election for the same elective city office if the candidate sets aside those contributions and uses those contributions for the general election or the special general election. Under both scenarios of your ordinance, we've drafted it in such that all these other state laws remain in effect because they're responsible rules to have. So they would not go away.
And Councilman Corona, we just uploaded the survey.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions?
Yes, Mayor, if I may.
Councilwoman Nova?
Thank you. My question for Sunny is if we set our own limits that aren't followed, that aren't the recommendation of the FPPC, who would be responsible for enforcing that? If we set our own limits, I'm under the impression that they will no longer police that, if you will.
Excellent question. So the city would have to review it and look at it. But if it's in violation of that, it could still be reported to FPPC as well.
Okay. Okay. So
And
ultimately,
residents could report it to FPPC, and FPPC itself can look at your resolution and enforce it.
Okay.
So the enforcement mechanisms don't change.
okay. So if we state our own amount that isn't in line with that, do we need to add maybe something in the language? Because I mean, it's for residents to kind of go through our website and try to find it. You have to, take various steps and click among the website. But is there a mechanism where maybe perhaps our city clerk will be able to flag it in case, we'll give them the benefit of doubt. They didn't know that they have received contributions greater than the set limit. Or who?
Your contributions get reported on your Form 700. So a lot of times it's after you receive the contribution. And really it is the elected officials' responsibility and the elected officials' treasurer's responsibility to make sure they're keeping track. I don't think you can really shift that onto the city.
Understood. So then if we were to stick with the FPPC recommendation, then they would be the ones to
They're the watchdogs.
They're the watchdogs, but even in that situation, the elected official and the treasurer are responsible for making sure they're not getting campaign contributions beyond that.
No, but
It's always your own responsibility to make sure you're complying with FBPC rules.
But what she's saying, if you follow the state policy, they're the watchdogs if you get something
They
over
would be the
4,900.
watchdogs, but I think she was asking me if FBPC would send them a notice saying you're going beyond. They would do it after you've collected it, and it would probably be you're in violation at that point. So it's still your responsibility to make sure you're not getting beyond the limits that you're allowed to collect.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking is just, because we are in the discussion and I'm not sure if I'm leaning one way or another in regards to, I just want to make sure that the donations are followed and if folks, which route to go, right? If we pick our own amount, would the FPPC still be involved? Because that wasn't clear on the agenda.
Yes, they would definitely be involved.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Let me open up for public comment. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir. Ashley Barton?
How many speakers do we have for this item?
Just one.
Okay. You're on, Ashley.
Just me. Okay, so I am a former Huntington Beach resident. I moved here in 2002. That same year, Huntington Beach had voted to change their campaign contribution limit from $620 to the state regulated limit of $5,900, which is the default. And that decision in itself at that time sent absolute shockwaves through my old, very rich community. So let's see. So who could imagine my disbelief finding that this little working class city of Paris has a campaign contribution limit of $20,000. It blew my absolute mind. When I did my basic research, other campaign contribution limits that are also $20,000, the board of directors for Alameda County, that's over 1.5 million residents. So that might make sense, but I don't understand what we have in common with at least Alameda County enough to validate and, and like to justify such a high set amount. So I'm really urging you to repeal it. I think the state mandated limit is absolutely appropriate, especially for how much on average, like our median income. What is it? Our median income is around $78,000, and then for reference, Huntington Beach's median income is $115,000. So please do the right thing. Please revert that. Can we go back to what is stated as normal? What was just shown is most places around us are also that way, and we are not Riverside and we are not Moreno Valley. So please vote to get money out of politics. It would really just foster trust in the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, council, any further discussion? Councilman Corona?
I did have staff kind of looking to see, all the contributions since 2020, and especially after 2022, the influx of large amount of money. Now, keep in mind, a resident here could write me a check for $20,000, right? But most residents in our city, as stated before, residents are not. No resident of Paris ever donated $20,000. We know who donated $20,000. People from outside the county were. And, I'm going to be honest, July 26, 2022, it was a quiet meeting. Nobody ever came to the meeting. No one ever really spoke up about it. And it was, to me, one of the most embarrassing meetings I was ashamed to be on here at the time. I was sick to my stomach. I just couldn't believe it because I knew it was going to happen, and it happened. Right. But I just want to stick to the facts, looking at all the cities, looking at cities of our size, looking at our, I know for campaigns, it does cost money. We do know that. It doesn't need that much money, though. You got to work hard. You got to knock on doors. You got to talk to people. And you can see from the majority of people here that a lot of people didn't have donations of $20,000. So looking at that, I think, of all the donations I saw, I think 2,500 is appropriate for a city of our size in our economic, situation here. But I'm going to motion for that.
Anybody else? Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem Rab?
Said motion for the 2,500. Is that keeping resolution 6027, but amending the contribution limit from 20,000 to 2,500?
Yeah, so that's going from putting the campaign limit from 20,000 to 2,500.
I am in agreement that we should keep 6027. I think we should maybe go with something a little bit more. I know the state limit it was 4,900 in 2022. I think it's gone up with the CPI. Maybe we can do something along the lines of 5,000.
So I'm okay with going to 2,500, but then do a CPI increase. I think that'd be more appropriate. So it will go up as with inflation, but 2,500 with the CPI, I think that would be appropriate.
I would just say, just go stick with the state and let them deal with it, so we don't have to burden more of our city clerk. But still looking for a motion on some kind of item.
So I had a motion. I had a motion for 2,500 with the CPI increase.
Is there a second?
I second.
Call the vote.
Nava Corona Vallejo, yes. Rab Vargas, no.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to items 12C, consideration and discussion regarding an ordinance addressing prohibited campaign and encampment removal procedure. This will be introduced by Director of Economic Development and Housing, Michelle Ogawa.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'd like to introduce Dr. Sarah Cortez de Pavon, our Principal Management Analyst in the Housing Division, to present this item.
Welcome, Doctor.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, and city staff. The item before you today is for an unlawful camping ordinance discussion. Some background: in the 2018 Martin v. Boise case ruled that enforcing camping regulations that criminalize certain activities by homeless individuals such as sleeping, sitting, standing, and eating on public property violated the Eighth Amendment's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. Under the Johnson v. Grants Pass case on June 28, 2024, the Supreme Court ruled that enforcing these camping regulations against homeless individuals is not cruel and unusual punishment, impacting the Martin v. Boise case, thereby allowing governments to begin enforcing camping regulations. On July 25, 2024, California Governor Newsom issued an executive order in response to the Grants Pass decision ordering local governments to urgently address homeless encampments. Some of the executive order highlights include having agencies to adopt policies and plan consistent with the Caltrans existing ordinance. Whenever feasible, a site assessment should be done in advance to determine whether an encampment poses an immediate threat to life, health, safety, or infrastructure, such that exigent circumstances require immediate removal, and where these exigent circumstances exist, as much advance notice to vacate as reasonable under the circumstances. Where there are no exigent circumstances, posting of a notice to vacate at least 48 hours in advance should be done, and contacting of service providers to request outreach services for persons experiencing homelessness at the encampment should be done. In addition, collecting, labeling, and storage of personal property for at least 60 days should be done. Please note that this executive order indicates that the governor's office will issue more direct guidelines, which could entail an ordinance amendment at a later date. Staff has met with the governor's representatives and we're advised that guidelines are forthcoming, but we do not have a date of when they will be available. The city attorney's office did draft an unlawful camping ordinance, and it is in line with the Caltrans ordinance as requested in the executive order, and it is to cover homelessness within the city. Please note also that the Grants Pass decision only overturned the cruel and unusual punishment applicability to camping ordinances, and any ordinances drafted in response must comply with the pre-Martin v. Boise ruling constitutional requirements in regards to avoiding penalties such as excessive fines that do violate the Eighth Amendment. The city draft ordinance is applicable to any city property, which is defined as all property, parks, right-of-ways, parking lots, easements, or other land owned, leased, controlled, or managed by the city. It does require prior written approval of the city to camp on city property, and violations shall be an infraction subject to an administrative citation. Further, it categorizes encampments into two levels. Priority level 1 will identify more critical conditions warranting urgent removal, and priority level 2 will identify areas to address but without urgency. It also includes law enforcement and service providers such as CityNet to be notified in advance to conduct an assessment to determine the priority level, as well as when abatement operations take place. Further, the city draft ordinance requires a notice to vacate be posted. This requires a 48-hour notice in advance for priority level 2. If the removal does not begin on the date posted, the location must be reposted and the 48 hours will start all over. There is no posting requirement for priority level 1 encampments. The draft also requires that personal property is to be held for 60 days. And also procedure requirements and record-keeping processes are fairly involved and many carry a set timeframes to remain in compliance. For instance, upon removal of an encampment, a summary report must be filed with the city clerk's office within 1 week. The current draft is written for city manager or designee direction to set these processes and identify responsible parties among city staff. This draft ordinance was taken to the Homelessness Task Force Committee on October 22nd of last year and the Public Safety Committee on November 8th of last year for discussion and feedback. The Homelessness Task Force Committee responded with 3 items. 1 was to increase the required period for holding personal property from 60 days to 90 days to be in alignment with the current Riverside County Sheriff's policy. The second was for repeat offenders. A third offense will entail a ban from all city parks for a period of 1 year, and the city will no longer hold or store their personal property. And the third was to include language to address unpermitted RV parking on city streets. The Public Safety Committee also responded with 3 items. The first was to include language that the ordinance will apply to all educational institutions K through 12, community colleges, vocational schools, etc., as well as public facilities including public library property, fire station property, sheriff station property, daycare centers, and facilities serving the youth and places of worship. The second was any violation of the ordinance to be addressed as a misdemeanor. And the third was to revise the section regarding encampment assessment action items and considerations to include the city's homelessness outreach service providers such as municipal code enforcement, Parks Division, or other staff as applicable. The City of Riverside adopted an encampment ordinance on October 22nd of last year in response to the Johnson v. Grant Pass decision. The Riverside ordinance does not allow camping or encampment within 2 blocks as long as signs are visibly posted of a school, but only K through 12. This does not include vocational or higher education schools. Also, it does not allow camping or encampment within 2 blocks of a shelter or where the city manager determines there is a substantial public health and safety risk long as signs are visibly posted, and also in the wildland-urban interface. Also note that in this section, there isn't a listed definition, but the language states that the public property includes only any street, sidewalk, park, and open space unless specifically authorized by the city manager. Further, the Riverside ordinance does not outline an assessment of encampments, so there's no priority level 1 or 2. The ordinance treats any encampment as a violation. It also does require a minimum 24-hour written notice of cleanup to be posted. And if an abatement is delayed or rescheduled, the city manager may conduct the abatement within 48 hours of the original 24-hour posting without having to repost a new notice of cleanup. However, if it goes beyond the 48 hours, then a new notice of cleanup must be posted. The Riverside ordinance also allows for a 3-hour expedited abatement by posting a notice of cleanup, and ordinance violations may be prosecuted as misdemeanors or infractions. Staff recommendation is for City Council to discuss and provide direction to staff regarding an ordinance addressing prohibited camping and encampment removal procedures. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Doctor. Council, any quick questions or comments before I call for public comment? Mayor Pro Tem?
It's more in the lines of a question. I know when we had this discussion at the public safety meeting, we included places of worship. Would that exclude a place of worship, saying if they have a church parking lot and they say, hey, we're going to let these homeless people set up their tents as long as they're orderly? Could we maybe draft an exception for that if we wanted to?
That's up to us.
Permitted? Yeah. Okay, permitted.
Yeah.
And then the other question was, there was potential of like RVs on city roads. Could we just limit that to maybe commercial roads and arterial roads? Because my concern is if you're marginally housed and you have an RV and you want to park it like among a bunch of warehouses or on Malbert Lane or one of those streets, I personally think you should, as long as you're operable and you're moving, you park there, because I think that's going to be a lot of issue with a lot of seniors, especially Generation X. A lot of them didn't really save for retirement. So a lot of them are going to be like on the fringes. So I just don't want it to be an issue where, if you have your RV, you park it there, you move it away to the next site. I don't see an issue with that. My main concern is the habitually homeless. When I visited St. Louis a few years ago, they had their tents out, but at 7 a.m., they were putting their tents away. Here, it seems in California, we have an issue where people think they can just be posted somewhere. It's not like you're set your tent up at Fossville Park at 10 o'clock, and at 7 a.m., you're putting it away, you're on your business. So that's my 2 concerns. Is I don't really have an issue with the homeless camping per se, if they were to camp and they cleaned up their mess and they were about their way. But I think what's happened in the last 20 years is, this is more of a comment, is that the homeless have felt free, carte blanche, just to take over public spaces. We all pay for taxes so that we can use the parks, so that the children can use the parks. But you got a lot of these people here that just feel like they're entitled to be out there. In San Bernardino, they've taken over Meadowbrook Park. They've taken over a lot of these parks, and the city just lets it happen. These people are doing drugs there. They're assaulting women there. They're just doing a bunch of crazy stuff. So that's just my two concerns. I just wanted to.
What's the language on the RV that was recommended?
I think there was discussion on it in terms of areas.
Well,
I
it was
didn't
on
see
a,
it in there.
It just said to include language to address unpermitted RV parking on streets. So this, you can insert the kind of language that you
So
would like.
my recommendation would be in line with the other comments where it talks about not being parked at a park or near a school, K through 12, or higher institutions, but like you said, somewhere that's not in those, if you would, sensitive areas. And
I would also include residential streets. For instance, someone could say you have, like, you know, a rider, or say one of the streets in like May Ranch area. They could technically park in front of the, I would, in residential, well, unless you are parked in front of the house that you own, and it's your RV, that's different, I think.
well, and
But
that
there's
under the
probably a
municipal
code.
code, you can't
Yeah,
park
there's a
out
code
in the
that
street.
addresses that, yes, yeah.
Along with that topic, I would want to add for the RV overnight stay, if, to ensure that the sidewalks are clear, to not have that roll out, you know, and bring out chairs and whatnot.
Yeah, because they have those where they extend out.
Right, so just stay
Potential
contained.
public safety.
Yeah, if they could just stay contained within the RV and keep the area clean.
Well, I don't, in purposes of encampments and homeless, I don't think they should be permitted in the residential areas. And I don't know if you want to just say it's allowed in industrial. I don't know how we want to word that, but I mean, that's kind of what we're focusing, is pushing them into the logistical areas.
If I may, Mayor, one way to address that would be to just put a restriction on residential areas, so it leaves it open. I mean, it's unsaid, unwritten, but it's
Well, it's got to be, but we need to protect the residential areas, K through 12, the churches, all that stuff that's listed on this.
list those, yes.
Put that in there and just leave it like that. That's a good idea. Councilman Corona?
Yeah, so I do want to be careful. I mean, we're saying, hey, you can go, I do agree. I would rather than go to an industrial area if they have an RV and they want to stay long-term. But my concern is that they might be there for, like, how long is it? One day or whatever? I mean, is
I'm
that-
just thinking like,
Okay.
if it's inoperable, or sorry, I know we public comment.
The municipal code only allows, might cover some of these questions. Am I not correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the current vehicle code only allows 72 hours of public parking.
Okay. So I know in the past, in my neighborhood, there was an individual and they parked it there, and then, 71 hours later, they moved it 10 feet, stayed there for another, and then they moved it again, and, and just like they knew. Meanwhile, I think they were dumping their stuff in the gutter, and it created kind of an issue for the residents nearby. On the other hand, too, I mean, there are some people that, they visit out of state and they bring their RV and they want to, park it in front of the, and so you got to find your balance there of what's,
Well, there's what I push a lot when I call code enforcement, there's spirit of the law and there's letter of the law. So in this case, someone's visiting from out of state, and you're not going to go get them because, they're not, as long as they're not blocking the sidewalk or anything. I mean, that's being letter of the law. But if you outright have a homeless person that's creating a nuisance, then you would impose
Yeah.
the letter of the law.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to change the topic, but there's I know in there, and I'm myself and Councilwoman Nava, we sit on the homeless subcommittee task force, and so we kind of gave some. Can we go back one slide real quick? Is that possible, Everett? Or are you in control? I don't know. Who's in control?
not.
There it is. Okay. Maybe one more. It was about the three strikes in the park.
Oh,
Is that it? Oh, there it is. I'm so sorry. It was there. So I know Riverside does, because we have the third offense, right? So we're giving them 3 chances, but Riverside has 1 offense or first one, and then they're actually banned from the park?
Not banned from the park. I believe they are arrested or they're actually removed, but not banned from the park.
Okay. does anybody besides, I believe Grants Pass, right? Because that's kind of where all this is coming from. They have they actually ban.
That was the
Is that something we could legally do?
That was the only one that we're aware of has that regulation.
So the law is that you can temporarily ban them after repeated violations, but you have to provide them with alternative housing. So Grant Pass says that if there's alternative housing available and you communicate to them and you facilitate them to go there, then you can ban them temporarily. So, 3 strikes, you say you're banned for a year, you store their materials so they can pick it up within 90 days. And you just have to make sure the code enforcement officers are trained to provide them with alternative housing. Now, that can be anywhere else. You can say, hey, in the county, there's these cities that have alternative housing, we'll pay for your Uber, or I don't know, like, here's how you can get there.
Right.
And so one of the things we've been recommending to our code enforcement officers in our other cities is that, like, we give them a script and they have to read the script and, get the person to sign it perhaps or initial it. So then there's no he said, she said.
Okay. And then, to all the people watching here or at home, it's a little misleading, right? Like, because it sounds like, hey, we're putting all these rules on homeless, right? And, I think I like the term vagrants, right? Because we're not, all the homeless have been approached. They've all been offered help. City of Paris is a very compassionate city, but people are just fed up of seeing needles in the parks, seeing feces in the parks, going to the parks and you see them doing inappropriate stuff, drinking or doing inappropriate stuff to themselves. And it just people are just kind of want to go to a park or another place, to the library per se, and just have a safe experience where we're all paying taxes. And some of these vagrants, they're costing a lot of our city resources. They're all offered help. If they still want to continue their lifestyle, then I think we need to encourage them to find another city that's allowing that. But the city of Paris, I think we're heading to a place where we're saying, hey, you could get help or you got to move on. So I just want to be clear on that. We've been at it for a long time on this, and I think a lot of residents are asking us to do something about it. So if possible, I mean, could we reduce that third offense to 2 offenses? Is that, or even 1 offense?
We can do whatever we want, Councilman
Okay,
Corona.
but
You
what
just
is
have
the
to-
legality?
You have to introduce it.
I'm just wondering, like, how would that hold up?
I think 2 offenses would be better. The 1 offense hasn't been challenged, so I don't know where a court would come out on that. This is all new after Grant Pass, and we just have to wait for a bunch of challenges and see what the courts do. But definitely 2 offenses would be legally defensible.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop at this point, guys, and allow for public comment if we have any. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir. Roxana Torres.
Is that what my 4 folks here, they're all speakers? You go first, Roxana.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff, and public, and everybody. My God. One of the things that I really love about the city, one of the things that I really like is drive around. I do my chores at home, clean my house, and do everything that I need to do. And then I like to drive and see how the city is growing, how you are building the city is just beautiful. Suddenly you pass through this street and it's totally new. And one of the things that I was thinking, last month I was driving through the city, the downtown Paris, and there is so much traffic during the morning. For the street is like terrible. Driving over there is like horrible. And I was wondering if you have any plans on building a 7th Street between Park Avenue or Park Street to 4th Street. Because today I was driving around and it is terrible. There is so many homeless over there. I saw people, I think they were selling drugs or doing something like that. There is some encampment, something like that. And also, I noticed that there was a fire. I don't know when. And there's trash everywhere. And the saddest thing is the school is right next to it. It's like a block from there. It's like half a block, the kids are coming out. I don't know if you're thinking of doing something for that street in particular. And something also that I noticed is there's a lot of trash. I don't know how you can handle that. There's a dump, I think someone dumped like a speedboat, and there's a lot of trash. I don't know if you have any plans. I was driving around and suddenly I decided to come. I wasn't going to talk, but one of the guys on the back, know them, they said, you should talk and talk to them about this, okay? She was talking about problems with homeless and everything. There is a lot of problems in that area. And I think you have to address that. That area is really dangerous. And the city downtown is, you're building a wonderful street.
Thank you, Roxana. Your time's up, sorry. Thank you so much.
That is all.
Okay, that was quick. Okay, back to the council.
Oh, okay. I have a few clarifying questions. I know for the last slide that we were on previously, it said for committee feedback, it says holding personal property from 60 days to 90 days. Can you explain that to me a little bit more?
So the executive order asks to, for any ordinance to be drafted to be in line with the Caltrans ordinance, which does say that they will hold the property once we go into clean. There's property that we can take as long as it doesn't pose a health risk for 60 days. In speaking with, at the Public Safety Committee, the sheriff said that they hold it for 90 days. So we just want to be in alignment with Riverside County Sheriffs.
Okay, perfect. And is that, because I know some of the language on here, it says we take these personal things and put them in storage. Where is the storage located at?
So those are procedural items, action items that we will still be drafting out depending on the language that gets included into the ordinance.
Okay, okay. And last question, I think it was from the previous side. All I got was any violation is a misdemeanor. Can you go back? Because I didn't know what was the misdemeanor for, and I want to double check what it was.
So the city draft says that if there are any violations of this unlawful camping ordinance, then it will be an administrative citation. One of the recommendations was for it to be in alignment with the city of Riverside, which treats them as misdemeanors or infractions.
So if someone violates the third time?
Just the ordinance.
Just the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So administrative site, our code enforcement issues those. The police can too, but there's really no, can't think of the word I want to use, Robert, help me here, but there's no repercussion from that. It's where if you make it a misdemeanor, the police can arrest, they can issue a ticket, and they're held to go to court. You don't go to court with a city, with a administrative citation. So that was why, I think this request came out of our Public Safety Commission, was to make it a misdemeanor. Gives more authority to our police. Anybody else? Councilman Corona?
Yeah, just a quick question. Have we sent this out to our sheriffs? Have they looked over it, or maybe
Sheriff's
Chief
was,
Lamb wants to? I don't know if.
I believe he was in attendance at the Public Safety Committee. And then we did have our homeless outreach team at the homeless task force. So those are the only individuals who, from the sheriff's department, that have seen this.
So besides that, like, have they seen the update, like everything kind of compiled? Is there anything they want to add, anything they want to take away, anything that they see a problem with this?
No, so we would go ahead, we can include them in this review once we incorporate the items that you are wishing to include into the draft ordinance.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, the discussion up here got my wheels turning in terms of the misdemeanor versus administrative cite. And what you had mentioned earlier regarding first, second, and third notifications, I think maybe jumping to a misdemeanor during the first notification may be too much. Maybe we can say either infraction, which is basically like a traffic ticket, noise complaint, or administrative cite for the first write-up. Say like the first write-up, oh, I didn't know there was an ordinance, now they know. Or if it's the instance where you have like a 18 to 22-year-old kid who may have aged out of foster care or something like that, it's camping. I don't really want to like give them a record, but then we go to the second violation. We could say maybe a second violation within 2 years or a year, you get that misdemeanor. And to be honest, a misdemeanor, the cops can arrest, but they're probably going to get out unless they have some like warrant for a felony. And the misdemeanor right now, it's summary probation. You're looking at 12 months. It's going to probably be 180 days max, which is going to be cut in half right now. So if that person just has that one misdemeanor, they're not even probably going to do 90 days beyond. They're probably going to be in custody for like a week, if that. But I mean, at least it gives us some enforcement mechanism. But I think perhaps it should be a misdemeanor ultimately, but maybe jumping straight to a misdemeanor might be a little too much. And even a misdemeanor, some of these people probably have extensive records. It's not, they don't care. But I think at least having the threat might help us. Police can make arrests. They can have contact with them. We can get them on summary probation.
Mr. Mayor?
So,
I just want to get a point of clarification from the Mayor Pro Tem. You're suggesting that only for violations of when we're asking them to be removed, but not for, I mean, if there's drug use or other kind of felonies or misdemeanor, we want that fully prosecuted?
Oh, yes,
okay.
fully.
Just want to
yeah,
clarify
if they have
that.
meth on them or meth
This-
pipe or anything like that.
This
yes.
conversation is solely about homelessness, not penal code violations. So my counter to that, Mayor Pro Tem, is that I don't agree with that. It needs to remain a misdemeanor. The police have the power to give them a warning. You already said, I mean, we are getting complaints. Maybe you're not. I get a lot of complaints. I know Malcolm's getting a lot of complaints about we're not doing anything about this homelessness. And administrative citation, as I explained earlier, does not do anything to the individual. There's no, I'm still missing that verb. I don't know if it's repercussion or what I'm trying to say, but there's no recourse with administrative citation where at least a written ticket, if at the bare minimum, a written ticket from the police, at least it goes into a record. And now that starts the process, right? But to start at the administrative citation, which doesn't hold any merit, I would rather leave it at a misdemeanor, and it's up to the police. They have the authority. If the person is being honest with them, and come on, our police officers know these individuals that we're talking about out there, and they know when they come across a new person. If that new person is not knowledgeable about the law, they can introduce them to the law. I'm gonna let you go this time, but I'm letting you know you cannot be out here anymore. Blah 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 blah. Or if it's the same person who's been out there for the last year making an issue, they can write them a ticket.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I just want to clarify, the proposed ordinance under the Newsom, the governor's executive order, the enforcement component is written that the citation for a violation for anything under this chapter is an infraction. At the discretion of the whoever's out there, code or sheriffs, they may issue an administrative citation. So right off the back, it's an infraction, which goes on your record. It's kind of a vehicle.
It's a ticket.
It's a ticket, so it does go on your record. However, we have the ability to, if they're compliant and, they seem to be working, we have the ability to make an administrative citation. But the misdemeanor is a whole different conversation. That's not part of this ordinance at this time, unless you want to add it.
Well, it's in here. Someone's requesting it to be a misdemeanor.
Yes, that is a recommendation from one of the committees. That's
Right.
correct.
Councilwoman Nava?
Thank you. This isn't in line with the misdemeanor conversation, but I just wanted to continue adding to the conversation, if that's okay. California has been experiencing homelessness decades in the making, right? And And just to reiterate that we're, it's our due diligence to deal with this while respecting the humanity, right, of all our populations. One of the things I really wanted to target was in regards to when we're holding their items. I wanted to know where, we've had that answer that we're still working out those logistics. But I think it's really important that we work with CityNet, right, who offers services to our homelessness. Maybe it'd be great to have some kind of system where in order for them to receive their items back, they're reminded, right, and offer these services that are continuously available to them. But I also just want to be mindful of location because, again, we want to keep in mind any sensitive areas. So if I could add, I don't know if we're taking recommendations, but if CityNet has the availabilities to store some of these items, I believe that would be a great point, as well as our Sheriff's Department, given that they already have the opportunity to do so. I think either of those locations would be ideal in my perspective. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other comments, I'd like to make, Councilman Corona?
Yeah. I'm looking at this current slide right now, and it says include language that the ordinance will apply to, and they list them. But just want to clarify, parks is already in there, right? I mean,
Yes, because
So
that
this
is,
also
that's, that's
includes-
city
okay.
property.
gotcha. Thank you.
And
So,
sorry,
Okay,
to
Councilwoman
reiterate
Nava.
on that. So I'm looking at the comparison chart, and the city of Paris is pretty vague, while the city of Riverside has a more extensive definition. Is that something that we could somewhat duplicate to have it further outlined?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Anybody else? So my recommendation is you have pretty much a written draft already, and then you have Public Safety Committee add-ons, if everybody's fine with that, not your additions. And then you have recommendations from the HR, the Homeless Task Force Committee. Everybody's good with that. And then, which Councilwoman Nava just asked you to do, and I don't think there was anything else. Well, that's got to be worked out still, location of storage. I just want to get a draft idea, because they're going to have to come back with all this on paper now, so then we can finally review that and then do a fine tune. Because otherwise, we can be here for another hour throwing things out. So if you can fine tune that stuff there
Yes, sir.
and then come back again.
I was just going to comment to Councilwoman Nava's point. The location maybe would be better to put in implementation guidelines, because then if the location doesn't work out, you don't want to amend a whole ordinance. So we'll address it in guidelines.
Okay, everybody's good with that? Yes.
Clarification, is it the direction that we include both committee recommendations into the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay.
In addition to what Councilwoman Nava just added.
Yes, and the description per the Riverside ordinance.
Right. Okay, and guys, this is not a done deal. If you got, something else comes up for the next meeting, we bring it up. We just want to give a good sense of direction, so when it comes back, it's more fine-tuned to what we want, and then we can clean it up and then hopefully finalize it.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Doctor, appreciate your time. All right, with that being said, item 13 is council communications. We'll start with Councilman Vallejo.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to let everyone know that for the next 3 days, I will be going to the Cal City Council Members Academy. That's for new council members. This is to learn more about the process and just to know what we have in mind. It's something that I'm very excited about because I'm always open to learning. So I do want to let the community know that I'm doing as much as I can to really understand the process of everything. So that's something that I really am excited about. One thing that I do want to mention that I couldn't mention last meeting, because last meeting I went till like 11:30 and it was way too late. I don't think anybody wanted to hear anybody talk at the end. But what I did want to let the council know as well is I do think I would like to propose that we hold a workshop to explore new ways to increase revenues without depending on industrial developments. I do appreciate specifically the mayor and Rab for the warehouses. I will say that the warehouses has helped us back in the day. It did help us become more stabilized. But I do believe with all the developments going on, I believe we have a new city going on and a new council going on to where I believe we can leverage and we can really talk to other developers and see what other commercial ideas we can have in mind. And I feel like if we really tune in on that, we can really make Paris to what we really want it to be. I do want to work together and really attract those high-quality commercial developers. And I really want to encourage my colleagues to just collaborate with each other, keep an open mind, because I do believe that now, since we have a little bit more warehouses, we get some good stuff out of it. But I believe it's time that we pivot, because coming from a school board member side, I will say that we are at a time where basically you need a degree to get a high-paying job. And one of my focuses, which is going to take many years, but is I want to bring higher-paying jobs here. I want to bring government buildings here. I want to bring other type of jobs that could really help students reel back in and not keep on leaving, because from the data that I can tell you, the majority of students always leave to San Diego, to San Marcos, to all these Cal States, and because they all have a lot of opportunities there. But I strongly believe that if we all collaborated together and work closely together, we can really find a way to make Paris attractable. And if we find those other revenues, we can really be a city where people want to come here and really want to live here. So I really hope we can find those different avenues to just gain more traction. Thank you.
So just to let you know, I've already given that direction in our Economic Development Committee.
The committee that I'm not in, okay.
Yeah, let us fine tune that there, and then we'll bring it back into a workshop together, okay?
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Yep. All right. Sorry. Councilman Corona.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could direct staff to bring back our good neighbor policy back, just kind of make some amendments in there. Last Tuesday, I attended with Councilwoman Nava. I think I just barely missed you. She got early start than I did. But we were up at 5:30 a.m. here, and we did the homeless point in time count. So with this discussion that we just had with the concerns that someone was bringing, some of these encampments was very sophisticated. I'm talking about they had a whole chimney going on. Some people, they were able to saw off a door of a drainage channel, and they had furniture up to the walls. I mean, it was actually a decent setup over there, but it was very unsafe. So it gave us a chance to see what's going on, what's the realities of what's happening. Obviously, a fire in a place that's with brush, all the dry brush that was around, very dangerous. And we've had a lot of fires, and I'm sure if our fire chief was here, he could tell a lot of these fires are caused by the encampments that we have. So it was a very eye-opening. I think that was my sixth time doing it, maybe. I'm looking forward to next year. Thank you. That's all the comments.
Thank you. Councilwoman Nava.
Thank you, Mayor. My comments are in regards to the current administration's immigration rates. Of course, I am appalled and outraged, and I would like to direct staff to prepare some very stringent and legally enforceable mechanisms for discussion to combat those efforts here at the City of Paris at the February 25th meeting. And those are all the comments I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I'd like to thank all the speakers for coming out tonight, especially Miss, I believe, Roxanne. I know the area you're talking about. It's at the end of 7th Street, Park Avenue. You have 4th Street up to the other side of Family Basket. It's a rocky area. It's a hilly area. I've reached out to both code enforcement and Public Works to start contacting the property owners in that area to get them to abate that area, to get them to move other items there, because it is very flammable. I'm at the other side of 7th Street, closer to the post office, or not too far off from that area. So I am intimately familiar with that area. So thank you for coming. I've been in contact with Public Works along with Code and working on looking at the various lots in the city, particularly the lots that abut residential areas. There's a few in downtown, empty lots. There's a few pocket lots. As well with contacting Edison, there's a lot of power lines, and some of the power lines, there's trees growing up near the power line. If you go down Paris Boulevard, starting at 5th Street to the end of 11th, there's several trees that are near palm trees and some of the residents that are along Paris Boulevard. Contacting Edison, maybe the property owners, to get the trees cut back, to get the palm fronds cut back, to also go down the alleys and look where, I know Edison will come by and cut the trees down some of the areas in the alley. So we can continue dialoguing with Edison. On that note, in the future, I think we need to reach out to Edison to get explanation. A lot of our residents were without power. I think the area former Councilwoman Rogers lived in up by Hetty Woods, Evans area. That area continually was without power. A lot of the downtown area, not the City Hall area, but if you were south of 4th Street or on the other side of Paris Boulevard, there were several days, not 2 hours, not 1 hour, up to 24 hours without power. And that a lot of residents, a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck now with all the inflation, everything going on. They're losing food, they're losing, items, people on oxygen. I think it's something to say, well, they're in a high wind area, we're just going to cut off the power. I think that worked during this time because we had to all come together to, fight these fires. But if this is going to be a reoccurring thing in the future, it's not acceptable. And I think the push is to move a lot of people out from like gas water heaters, put you on electric cars. I think that's going to put more of make the grid less resilient in those instances. So I think we need to start dialoguing with Edison regarding their plans to fix this or get it under control, I think, in the future. So once again, I'd like to thank all the speakers for coming out and speaking tonight. I'd like to thank everyone for working. And in terms of staff and my colleagues are bringing a lot of robust discussions forward. I think we should all perhaps work together so we're not having meetings that go to past 9:30, maybe moving some items around, maybe cutting down some presentations, maybe working with the public comment, just to expedite so everyone gets a voice here at the City Council. So once again, thank you for coming out. Hope everybody enjoyed the last few days of January. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you too, also the speakers for coming out and sticking with us. We had a lot of activity in the last meeting we didn't get to talk about, but just some highlights. I did attend the RSO, Riverside Sheriff's Office Blue Light Ceremony along with our Assistant City Manager, Reina. This ceremony is held to memorize the honor of our county's 75 fallen officers, but is also dedicated to all their surviving family members. The 5th annual Trolley Toy Drive was a very big success this past year, or in the year already. Shop with the Cop as well. Breakfast with Santa, thank you staff again. Was honored to present the $100th birthday certificate to Issa Wright Tutt, longtime resident here of Paris. Honored to participate in a community luncheon to discuss the next UC Riverside Chancellor search. So our chancellor is going to be retiring at the end of this school year. In reference to the fire zone, as Council Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, just to add to it, I've been attending several meetings with Edison and other electeds and mayors and what have you. And the big challenge in Paris is that some of our circuits are tied into the big fire zone areas. So the area referred to former Councilwoman Rogers and the Orange Vista High School, areas that all the powers are underground, all the lines are underground, had nothing to do with their necessary residents, but their circuit went further east into our neighboring city that is a fire zone, and they were affected by it. So yes, when we talk to, if and when you guys do talk and reach out, I don't know how it can be done or what, but these circuits need to be cut down to size and fit more tailored to the communities, because our people shouldn't have to be going through these long time shutoffs because they live in an area. So I guess if you think about it, back in the day when this was really Paris Valley, they were so spread out these residential areas that a circuit went a long ways, So, I don't know, but there's two big areas that got affected. 4th Street was another area. They got hit for a long time. So anyway, you heard about the meeting I went to that our federal lobbyist mentioned was the 93rd winter meeting for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I was honored to speak at the annual meeting for the Mayors Alliance to End Childhood Hunger. I was able to give a presentation on our progress and efforts that we are pursuing, of which I will have staff give an update to council as well at another meeting, okay? I was able to participate in a roundtable discussion with our senators, Alex Padilla and Adam Schiff, along with approximately 30 other California mayors. Topics including housing, insurance premiums, wildfires, local control, the usual stuff. Met with you heard about this, talking with transportation. I also met with the folks from the Mayor's Guaranteed Income Alliance. This is still works in the progress with our city of Paris. And January 22nd, our Public Services Department hosted a quarterly Riverside County Health Coalition meeting, which I was honored to give the opening speech as to what we are doing in their city. The coalition is comprised of staff members from several cities, RUHS staff, nonprofit organizations, faith-based organizations. Their mission is to promote and improve and sustain social and physical environments for health and wellness through policy and development and advocacy. And then lastly, on Saturday, January 25th, myself, Mayor Pro Tem, and Councilman Corona, we attended the Paris Valley Historical Museum Association, who celebrated the Fred T. Paris Day at the Depot Museum, along with Mayor, I said their names. This year was to recognize the Canasser family. They're the owners of the Paris Valley Airport. They were honored this year for the Fred T. Paris Day, and we issued them a proclamation. All right, I know I spoke fast, but I'm trying to get everybody out of here. Our next item is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. We have two exciting activities this week. The first one is finally the groundbreaking for the Fossfield Park renovation and expansion. It's going to be held tomorrow, January 29th at 4 p.m. at Fossfield Park, and this event is open to the public. And the second event this week is the opening of the early childhood classroom facility. And this will take place this Thursday, January 30th at 2 p.m. There will be a ceremony at the Paris Green City Farm, followed by a tour of the classroom, also open to the public. And finally, we are excited to introduce the official City of Paris mobile app. It is designed to enhance how residents and visitors connect with city services and resources. This is a user-friendly app that provides instant access to important dates, event information, service requests, and more. And now I'm happy to introduce Everett Hamley, our digital media supervisor, to give you an overview.
I'll address that.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I just wanted to stop by and give you a quick overview of the new city app. So at the beginning of the year, we started promoting our New Year, New App campaign, and basically it's to promote the fact that the city has launched a new app. It's available on all iOS and Android platforms for residents to download for free directly to their smartphone. So the new app is kind of a one-stop shop, for residents to view important information on our website, register for classes on Civic Rec. I know sometimes that's a little bit of a bugaboo for people, and they're able to find it right there at the top of the interface. They can obtain a business license or pet license and report any other issues throughout the city. And most importantly, they can easily find agendas for committee meetings and council meetings. So the great thing about this app from our end is that it's very customizable. When you open up the app, you'll see a bunch of what you call applets on the top, and those are all the different subjects. If there's anything that you want to see that isn't there, we can easily update it. If there's something there you don't think is necessary, we can delete it. So it doesn't require the user to update the app to see these changes. They're basically instantaneous. So residents can go to the App Store and search for Paris Go Gov to search for the app, or they can go to our Instagram page. We have the links in our link tree on top of our Instagram page. We've had multiple posts on Facebook, and we've got the links to the Android and the iOS apps on there. The great thing, too, about this app is that besides the information that's already available on our website and through other sources, is they can get real-time notifications about events, road closures, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, emergencies due to power outages, high winds, et cetera. It sends it as a push notification to their phone, just like a text message, where on your phone you'll see a badge icon come up immediately. And that's also basically instantaneous as well. So I'd just like to encourage all of our residents to download the app today and stay up to date on what's going on here in the city of Paris. So I'm available for any questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, quick question. Those that have had that old Paris mobile, get rid of that?
We're still pushing things out to the Smart 911 app, and I know which one you're referring to because we do have some users on there. We've actually just recently sent out a notification on that app to tell residents to download the new app because the new app will do what the Smart 911 app did and a whole lot more.
And we're
But
not
for now,
talking about the smart, we're talking about the Paris mobile app
That's the
to
yeah,
report.
that's the Comcade app, sir. Yes, and
Yes.
in this mobile app that we have here, there is an applet that will take you directly to that interface as well. So yes, if that's what you're referring to, we don't need to use the Paris mobile app.
Gotcha.
anymore.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Great presentation, too.
Thank you, sir.
So my question was that, we're not omitting the Paris mobile app because that app is horrible.
Basically, I would say that the functionality of that app is contained in here. I've heard discussions about replacing that particular interface with another interface, and when that happens, if and when it happens, that can be integrated into this interface, no problem.
That's all, that's what I want to hear, because I don't want to have multiple apps, but there's a lot of issues with that Paris mobile app, and we need to, I see your chief information officers in the back, we need to get rid of that as soon as possible and integrate it into this app, so we don't have people getting confused out there. Thank you, Everett.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to our adjournment, unfortunately, folks. I hate to say goodnight, but item 15, but I do want to, unfortunately, we are going to be adjourning this evening in memory of 19-year-old City of Paris resident Adrian Quiros, the son of a dear friend of our city clerk, Nancy Salazar, who passed away on January 17th, 2025 as a result of a traffic collision here in Paris. So our thoughts and prayers are with the family. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us and for watching us on social media as well, and we'll see you next month.
Shut off.